Kenny here with Gardening Simplified. We're out here, it's January 4th, and we're trying to move some of our containers, which those of you that follow know we've got a bunch in the garden, but we're adding some more too. And so this video is going to be about basically preparing containers and container gardening. And the first thing I want to get with you about, these, some might recognize this, it's that have cattle or something, or family or neighbors or something that have cattle. These are protein tubs. A lot of people in the winter, they feed their cows protein, and they have these tubs left over. And if you know someone, you can contact them and see if they'll give you some of these. A lot of them, they'll carry them back to the dealer. They don't give them any credit or anything for them, but just so they don't have them in the way, and they appreciate getting them out of their way. Now, my sister-in-law has cattle, and that's where I get mine. But anyway, what we want to do is prepare these tubs. Now, these tubs don't have any drain holes, so if we're going to use these, we need drain holes. Now, the easiest way, you can use a drill bit. I like a hole saw because it's a little more control. I can get a nice big hole, and it does in a hurry. So what I'm doing is I'm drilling me 8 holes, and when you drill these holes, you want to drill them close to the bottom. Now, if this one's a little bit really close, but if it's a little bit up from the bottom, it'll be all right, but just don't go too far. The whole idea of the drain holes is so that extra water can drain out of this tub. Now, on my other tubs, I put all the holes on the bottom, and I had them setting on landscape timber, so that worked good. But where I'm going to move them to, I'm not going to have that. So I'm going to have to re-drill my holes. This size hole here, 3/8 hole, this is a good size. You're not going to have a whole lot of stuff coming out of it that you have to worry about putting in there to plug the hole. Now, the only disadvantage here is with this is I have to clean the old plastic piece out each time I do this. And being this one was low, it might be a little bit harder than the other ones. But anyway, I'm going to continue to do this. I have a bunch of buckets that she just gave me. I'll go ahead and get these tubs ready, and then we'll talk about what we're going to use as far as the soil matter in those containers. One thing I didn't mention why these containers are really nice for container gardening is because, and if you look at this symbol, if it's got a 1 or a 2 and there's a few other numbers, it's food grade, so it doesn't matter. You can store food in this, so you don't have to worry about some kind of contaminant getting into your plant and then you eating it. So that was one reason why these are so great to have. Okay, for our soil that we're putting in our containers. Now, these are our old containers. This soil here is the bottom 6 inches was a pine bark mulch that was from well, I say pine bark, it was from pine cuttings when we had our pine trees thinned, and I had them pile it all up so we could compost it out. And then on top of that was just compost, which it was fairly new. Now it's nice and rich. It's definitely broke down a lot. What we're going to do now is we're going to add some amendments to this. So let me dump this in the wheelbarrow. Okay, you can see we still have some, they're deteriorating, but we still have some piece of bark that was in there. This is kind of the hugelkultur bed. The new one is set up the same way. We put about 6 inches of the pine compost in there, and it's a really rich, got a whole lot of nutrients, one from those tree limbs and all that kind of stuff. So it's breaking down real good. It's about 3 years old. Now, what I'm doing is I'm putting some perlite in here. I'm putting about 2 of these 2 of these Halloween buckets. These are real good when they go on sale after the season's over. You can use them for all kinds of stuff. And then I'm putting a bucket of vermiculite. Now, the perlite will help it hold some water. A little bit, but it'll actually put air pockets in there. That way the roots can breathe. It'll make it a little less compact. Same thing with the vermiculite. Vermiculite tends to hold moisture, so it'll keep it a little bit moisture in there, and plus it's light, so it keeps it from compacting as bad. Now while I'm doing this, I'm going to put me a couple scoops of chicken litter in here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill this rest of the way up with some new compost off the trailer here, and then we'll mix this up real good and put it in the buckets, just like that. And this is the way we're doing the bottom of our buckets, and you can see this stuff is breaking down, but it's got a fair amount of clay, which clay has got a lot of nutrients, but it's not enough to bind up the soil. And then once we do that 6 inches there, we top it off with this. It almost looks like potting soil, and this over the period of the year, of course, it's going to settle down. We're filling these real full. Once we water them, we might put a little bit more in here because we know this is going to sink down. So we'll put it pretty close to the top, leave us enough room that we can water without it just running over the top of it, and go from there. But anyway, we'll finish getting all these put in place. Finally getting some of these new containers in place and filled with some soil mix, and won't be long we'll be planting. One advantage to these protein containers is that it has this rim. As you can see, my earlier ones, the ones that were half of a 55-gallon plastic drum, they tend to want to warp at the top. Now what I do is I put a board in there to hold them into place while I fill them, and it kind of keeps them pretty close in the shape. But over a period of time, as the soil settles, then they'll get back in this condition. But anyway, I hope this video is helpful. I hope it gives you a little more thought of maybe if you want to do some container gardening to where you don't have quite as much expense in it. And I hope you'll start growing yourself. And if you like this video, well, of course, give it a big thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, well, hit that subscribe, hit the bell button, so you'll be notified whenever I put out new videos. And share this video. It really helps my channel. Happy gardening.